Welcome to Killer Women with your host, best-selling author Danielle Girard. The Killer Women Vodcast is pleased to be a part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. To learn more about Danielle and her books, visit her at www.daniellegirard.com, and to access all of our vodcasts, go to youtube.com/Authors on the Air. And now, Danielle's next killer woman.
Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of Killer Women podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Girard, best-selling author of 15 novels now. And with me today, I'm so excited to meet her officially in person and also hear about her incredible book. This is Hannah Morrissey. Hannah earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She grew up on a farm in a small northern town and now lives with her husband and 2 pugs. Hello, Transcriber is her debut novel. It's incredible, and it is inspired by her work as a police transcriber. So just a few buzzwords to describe Hello, Transcriber are dark, atmospheric, compelling, edgy and haunting, suspenseful, fine-tuned bleakness, and unflinching exploration of human depravity. And I actually think all of those really do a very good job to describe this book, which is so atmospheric. The town of Black Harbor is really a character in the book, I feel like. So I can tell you, I could talk on and on about how much I love this book, and I will more. But first, Hannah, this is your very first book. Congratulations on your debut novel. And it looks like it was, you mentioned that it was inspired by your work as a police transcriber. So tell us a little bit about that work and how this idea came to form.
Yeah, so gosh, I'm not sure how long ago it was now, but yeah, I ended up being a police transcriber. I have no idea how I fell into it. I didn't even know that that was a job until it became my job. So yeah, someone who's, a writer myself, I had really good typing skills and they needed somebody with a good typing ability. So yeah, basically the job was sit in like this little glass office and listen to detectives all night tell you like all the city's gruesome goings on, and you just had to type everything that they said. So it was definitely an enlightening job. I had no idea how like horrible the place I lived in was until I started hearing all this stuff.
Well, and I love that the acknowledgments in your book, your dedication says to Hans, you had me at Hello, Transcriber. So I'm guessing this is maybe how you met your husband.
Yeah, he was one of the voices I would hear over the recording. So it was, you would get into work and you would just put these foam earbuds like in, and then you would press the pedal and then hear people's voices, and he was my favorite to listen to.
That is amazing. So is Black Harbor, I didn't actually look at the map. Is it a fictional town? Or
it's fiction, yeah. I mean, it's fiction inspired by
another town.
Yeah.
Another town.
Yeah.
Well, so talk to me, in this book, and I promise we're not going to do any spoiling because everybody needs to read it. So it is so wonderfully it is that kind of book that just really takes you feel like your body is absorbing this town and these people, and you really have to live with them to the end. So place is really important, in particular the bridge. And I noticed on your on your social media there is a bridge. Is this a bridge where a lot of people jump? It's a jumper bridge. It looked like in the book there's a lot of people who die by jumping.
Yeah, actually the bridge, I don't know, I was just darkly fascinated by it. Every time I drove to work, like at the police department, I would drive past this bridge and I just thought it looked so cool, just the way it disappeared in the trees on both sides, like stretching from this river. And I don't know, I think there were a couple reports that I would type from time to time of people being found in the water, they jumped and they left something up on the bridge, like stuff like that. So it wasn't nearly quite the epidemic that I wrote about in Hello Transcriber, but it really kind of set the foundation of me thinking about this bridge. And if, you know, the only way out is down, people want out so bad that they're willing to jump off this bridge, I started thinking about what kind of place is that that's so bad that that's the only way people feel that they can leave. So I guess, yeah, that was kind of just the foundation for building out Black Harbor from there.
And Hazel, who is our protagonist, who is of course the police transcriber and a married woman, and who moves to Black Harbor for her husband's job. It's not her home. Her home is I think 3 hours north of Black Harbor, in what seems like a much lovelier spot. So she's she's a really interesting and sort of layered character, which I think is so wonderful. And one of the things she does, and I'd love to have you kind of talk to us about, you know, what you think, what was the inspiration for this, and also sort of what does it tell us about Hazel's character, is that she gives gifts to the bridge. And she's a runner, which maybe you're a runner too. I literally only run if I'm being chased. It's like but she gives, every time she goes there, she sort of gives a gift to the bridge. And there's a line in the book, and I looked for it earlier, but I couldn't find exactly where she thought that when she ran out of things to give, that the only thing that would be left to give would be herself, which was so, you know, it hits us all, right? Because we've all felt, you know, alone.
Yeah.
And so tell me about Hazel. I mean, where does she come from, and what is, you know, what do you feel like are the motivations for her needing to give something to the bridge?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, and Hazel was, yeah, the bridge was really integral in creating her character too, because you think about, you know, a scene where this character goes to the bridge, and then you wonder, what if that's not the only time that she goes there, and what if she goes there a lot, and then what is she doing there? So I started building her up from that. And I just think she's relatable in the way that maybe we've all found ourselves in situations where we give and we give and we give, and you feel yourself being stripped away. And then, you know, she keeps giving these pieces of her, like, you know, memories that she has, like throwing them to the water. And, you know, maybe she'll end up going the same way as everybody else in Black Harbor. She doesn't know, but I think it was just more of a commentary of when you give so much to people and lose yourself in the process. And then especially somebody who's taken far from home and feels as though she's trapped by circumstance of, like trapped in the circumstance that she doesn't feel like she belongs where she is, and she's not in the kind of marriage that she wants to be in, and like not doing what she wants to do. I mean, I don't think that's a foreign feeling for people. So, you know, I like to write kind of extremes where people maybe don't find themselves like that far down, but I think there's pieces that are relatable.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And you mentioned, you know, her, when you talk about her giving and giving and giving, and her marriage is such an example of that. And that is, you know, that is a real, I mean, that is such a strong, those little pieces that she gives to the bridge, or without ever saying, really, she doesn't, there's another thing I love that you do, is the emotions that she's going through, and really her, you know, her misery. I mean, her unhappiness, her deep unhappiness comes out through these things she does, rather than and her reactions to her husband, and her physical reaction to her. You know, there's so many layers of her pain that I think is just so beautifully done. And so since we're talking about that, you know, the themes, sort of the themes of family and abandonment are really big in the book, and, you know, with multiple characters. And I guess speak to that a little bit. Maybe you talk to us a little about Nick, who is our sort of second protagonist. And I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. I'm going to let you do that for us. Who is Nick?
Nikolai Cole, the detective.
Yeah.
So he's kind of brought in as a foil, I guess, to Hazel's husband. And he's somebody that, you know, I think he provides a good comparison or contrast to her husband, in that she's you know, she's got one and he's not necessarily good for her, and she's looking at somebody over here and this detective who she's, attracted to, but he's maybe not necessarily good for her either. But she doesn't know what she doesn't know. So
right.
there might be opportunities with him. So, but yeah, he's somebody who I wanted to create that he has enough mystery about him where, he comes in, he's been gone for a while, like 6 months, he's come off this suspension that's like really hush hush. So, I think that says something about the police department that she's found herself in, that they're keeping this hush hush and nobody will talk about it. And so he comes back in the picture and you're wondering what was it that he did that was so bad. And now she's getting wrapped up with him. So you're like, this might not be good.
And there's that same sort of the same levels of sort of family and abandonment and loss. They follow through in multiple characters. I guess I was thinking of his first name. I wouldn't have you pronounce Cole. I probably couldn't figure it out. I was like, why does it sound so complicated in my brain? But yes, okay, Nikolai. And there's another layer to sort of both of them, which I think is really interesting, and I'd love to hear you sort of about this, which is sort of there's some fear. They're both sort of they feel unseen. I think this particularly Hazel and in her marriage, and a little bit also in that in her job, but also sort of her fear of being seen, and that the room that she transcribes in with the window that's to the street, quite a lot happens. She witnesses some very sort of scary things right in that, and so she's struggling between wanting to pursue this case and understand it and find out what's happened, and also sort of the danger of it, right? Because transcribers don't carry weapons, right?
No, not typically. No.
So and then talk to us a little bit about Hazel's family, because there's although we don't see her sister in much of the book, and her mother, her father has a tiny bit, and her mother sort of off screen. Her family is also a very big part of her sort of not necessarily feeling seen, and some bits of abandonment. Give us some background about Hazel's family, and then if you have thoughts about where that inspiration came from.
Yeah, I think so I mean, for much of the book, I mean, Hazel, like she kind of thinks or talks about her mother with sort of an air of disdain because her mother left. And I think, but she also mentions that she's similar to her mother, that she looks similar to her. And so I think where a lot of that disdain comes from is, we have that, a lot of us say, I'm not saying everybody does, but a lot of us say, oh, I'll never be like my mom, and there's that fear. And she sees that she is similar to her mother, and that her mother left and think to somebody. And when what kind of pain that causes, like, you don't want to be the person to do that, which is, a lot of why she takes on so much that she does. But, I think there's a lot of what I love about like fiction so much is there's so much truth to fiction.
Yeah.
And we do have those relatable characters or relatable scenarios. So, she comes from a divorced family, and I think, I come from a divorced family as well. And you think that that'll never happen to my family, So when it does, and when somebody voluntarily leaves, it puts a mark on you, and
especially
you wonder,
the kids. Yeah.
And like I think like as a child, like you can't help but wonder like what's wrong with me or what,
right.
So I think when you have that kind of perspective with her, you understand why she clings to the people that she does, and like why she does the things she does. And I think with her sister Elle, because Elle's like a radio personality, and Elle is very like bubbly and the opposite of Hazel. Like Elle likes to talk, whereas Hazel likes to listen. And so they're opposites in that way, but they're good complements to each other in that way too. And I think everybody's kind of had that feeling, especially if you have siblings, that fear of living in someone's shadow.
Right. Absolutely. And it sounds like you have a fair number of siblings. Are you
Yeah, I
one
have
of a
four.
lot of sisters?
Yeah, I have four sisters. I don't think I've ever said it in an interview before. I'm actually an identical triplet.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
so
Wow.
there's three of us, and then there's two younger sisters.
Wow, your parents are brave. They had three triplets and then they went on to have more kids, huh?
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, what were they thinking?
Wow, my dad was an identical twin, but I don't know
Oh,
that I've
really?
ever met an identical triplet. That is incredible. Now, do your sisters live nearby?
Kind of not too far. My one
Got it.
sister Miranda lives about an hour from me, and my other sister lives like 2 hours from me. So.
Okay. Wow, that is so crazy. I don't know what I would do if I saw three Hannah Morrisseys walking down the street together. I might be.
Yeah, it was funny at my book launch. My sister Miranda, she looks the most like me because we dye our hair the same. And at Barnes and Noble at my book launch, people were like, "Oh, congratulations!" And she's like,
Yeah.
"No, not me."
She's like, I'm just the lookalike. Good. That is
And she was like, "No."
wow, that is so interesting. Yeah, that and how is it for, I mean, people always, I get this question a lot too from my own books because they're dark like I mean, in a different way, but also very dark.
Yeah.
And my family is always like, we have no idea where it came from because she had such a normal upbringing. And what does your family say? Do you have other dark-minded folks in your family?
Oh, yes. My sister Miranda is very dark as well. She likes more like the supernatural and like
Mm-hmm.
witches and stuff like that too. So I'm like the crime junkie. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think all of my sisters appreciate it. And my grandma loves dark books. So like
Okay.
Hello Transcriber was right up her alley.
I love that. So you came to it, you came to it organically. Yeah, my
Yeah.
mother's still not quite over my writing career. It's been like 20 years. So she'll have to just go with
Gonna
it.
have to
So
accept it.
yeah, eventually I think she will have to accept it. So I was really excited. I just checked out and it looks like you've got another book coming this year, The Widowmaker. Now wait, does that take us back to Black Harbor?
Yes, we are back in Black Harbor because we couldn't get enough.
I haven't gotten enough, not by a long. So tell us tell us about The Widowmaker, and then also when it's coming out and all the good places we can find it and find more about it.
Yeah, so The Widowmaker, it takes place in Black Harbor, but with different protagonists this time. So, but it's because it's in the same world, you will see some recurring characters. So, fun to see familiar faces and like them interacting with new people. So yeah, it takes place in Black Harbor, and then we have Morgan, who's like a down on her luck photographer who helps a newly promoted detective solve a 20-year-old cold case. So getting
I
into
love it.
yeah,
So
Morgan's like, if you thought Hello Transcriber was dark, The Widowmaker's darker.
Well, I mean, I was right when I said that I felt like Black Harbor was its own character, right? That
Yeah,
is,
no,
it really is. It's 100%. And tell us, when does The Widowmaker come out?
it should be out in fall 2022.
Okay. So this
Yes.
fall, not an exact date quite yet. So okay,
I don't think I have one. Nope.
now do you think in looking forward, can you imagine that you'll stay in Black Harbor a while? Do you think you'll come back to, some of these older characters, or just we'll see new ones all the time? What do you think?
Yeah, I have some plans for sure. Well, I just signed a deal for my third Black Harbor book, so there's definitely going to be a third one.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that one will be actually one of your books kind of inspired me as well because the protagonist is a medical examiner.
Oh God.
So,
right. So
I had to go out and read Exhume and like gonna read that whole series. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect just to help me out and learn more about. But yeah, so the third one, Dead Ringer, will take place in Black Harbor, and I have plans, just kind of loose ideas to wrap up the series with maybe like 4 or 5 books. But yeah, I'm also very interested in writing a standalone book that maybe takes place in Milwaukee.
Okay. Yeah. So in the same sort of broad neck of the woods, but in a city rather than a town. Yeah.
Like a real rooted city that, I mean, I spend a lot of time in Milwaukee, so I love places that I can go to and explore and just see for myself, like the thing that makes it interesting and stuff. So probably, you know, sticking with the crime whole Midwestern noir genre again, but seeing what else I can do with it.
Well, I mean, this is, and you know, and it's true. People talked about how, you know, lyrical and your writing is not, I mean, it is obviously very noir, but your prose is beautiful. I mean,
Thank you.
you studied writing in school, literature?
Yeah, I studied English and creative writing.
Yeah, I really think it shows. It's beautiful. So that is super exciting. Well, for our listeners, we have an exciting opportunity here because Hannah has offered to give away a copy of Hello Transcriber. And just look in the notes on our podcast, but we will let people leave comments on our Facebook page, which is at Danielle's Killer Women, or you can search for it by Killer Women by Danielle, hosted by Danielle Girard. And then in a few days, Hannah will choose one lucky winner to receive a book. So that's super fun. And you do want to grab this one. It's especially if we're going back to Black Harbor, you're gonna want to read this. It's fabulous. So Hannah, share with us where everybody can find you online, your website and your Facebook and Instagram. Give us all the
deets. The dirty deets. Let's see, my website is www.hannahmorrissey.com, and then I like to hang out on Instagram at Hannah Morrissey Writer, and then I like to hang out on Facebook at Hannah Morrissey Author. Well, I chose two different verbs, but
I did that same thing. And just so we know, Morrissey has 2 R's and 2 S's, and I found myself sometimes wanting to be like Mori, but there's 2 R's and 2 S's. That's fantastic. And you can find me also www.daniellegirard.com, and I'm also on Instagram, Danielle Girard Books, on Facebook, author Danielle Girard. Again, no real continuity about that. Well, this was so exciting, and everybody go and get your copy of Hello Transcriber. It is dark and eerie and gripping and fabulous. You will not be sorry. Hannah, I cannot wait for the Widowmaker, and thank you so much for joining us today.